Hello, everyone, and welcome to Dreamleapers with Harriette Cole. We have a very special guest today. Now, we know what Dreamleapers is. It's all about inspiring people to access and activate their dreams. I bring people on who are doing that so that you can see you can do it too. And today's guest is doing that like 1,000 times over. He is a New York Times #1 bestselling author. He is a medical doctor who has helped so many people, millions of people, through the way that he's been able to access us, not just as a doctor, but on TV, really talking to folks about all that he knows about how we can be healthy and fit. Let me tell you a little bit about him now. He is Dr. Ian Smith. I know you know him. He is a renowned physician, author, and advocate for healthy living. He is a leading voice in wellness, having inspired millions through his best-selling books that include The Clean 20, Shred, The Revolutionary Diet, and there's so many others. He's actually written 15 books and counting, among them 6 novels, including his latest novel that we're definitely going to talk about today, Eagle Rock. And this story follows a man seeking redemption after being released from prison. It explores themes of second chances and the complexities of human relationships. Alongside his literary achievements, Dr. Smith has served as a medical contributor to The Rachel Ray Show, The Doctors, Celebrity Fit Club, 50 Million Pound Challenge, The Makeover Mile, so many. He's been on so many shows, every show that you watch. And he's widely recognized for his dedication to accessible health education. His recent work addresses health disparities and social justice, advocating for wellness as a universal right. Yes, amen. So please join me now in welcoming Dr. Ian K. Smith. Hey, hey.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Of course. So, I'm an author, writer first. And when I saw you at the Harlem Book Fair, we were looking at this book, Eagle Rock, which is your newest book. And first of all, it's a novel. And so many people, maybe like you, are a household name for people, helping them get their bodies together, their health together. And here you are, 6 novels in. That's like the dream. Everybody I talk to wants to write a book. There's nobody who says they don't want to write a book, whether they know what it's going to be or not. You've written a bunch of books, but then to switch to fiction and do it yourself and really dive in. What was the motivating factor to get you started in writing fiction?
Yeah, that's a great opening question. I have been a lover of fiction my entire life since I was a little boy. Particularly, I love the genre of thrillers, mystery, crime fiction. I read it as a kid. I read it as a teenager, as a young adult. So I've always loved to read that. My professional career, my public-facing career has always been health because I'm a physician, and I've done so many health books. In fact, Eagle Rock is my 26th book. It's my
26. Oh, wow.
26. Yeah. So, but it's my 6th novel, but most of my books have been about health. So everyone knows me for writing wellness books, diet books, nutrition books. But one of my other passions is also writing fiction. And I've been writing fiction for a while. And I finally went to my publisher, who had published a lot of my health books, who had made a lot of money on my health books. And I said to them, if you want the next health book, we need to start publishing some of my fiction. It is a dream of mine. It is a passion of mine. And I want to do it. And I don't care if it sells 5 copies. The point is that this is a dream of mine, to publish the fiction, because I love good stories. And that happened. And they kind of acquiesced, to say the least, and they started publishing. And I created, so my first couple of novels were not a series. One was about a professor who gets killed at Dartmouth. Another was about my experiences. It's called The Ancient Nine, my experiences as a young student at Harvard, joining a secret society. So that was The Ancient Nine. And then I started writing the Ashe Cayne series, of which Eagle Rock is the 4th installment.
So I was listening to some of your interviews, preparing for our conversation, and my husband was in the background. He absolutely is entranced by secret societies and the Illuminati and, this and that. And so he's like, what's, and also about, intermittent fasting and like all the things that you live and breathe and we're talking about. So when the interview came up about the Ancient Nine, he's like, wait, what is that? I told you it was real. So come on, let's talk about that for 1 second, because there are plenty of people who are like, these secret societies exist. The people who are in them run the world and have for hundreds of years. True or false, Dr. Ian?
It's true. So I belong to what's called a finals club at Harvard. They were started back in the 1800s. My club in particular was founded by J.P. Morgan himself. Because
so that's a real person, everybody. It's not just the name of a bank.
Yeah, he started it because he couldn't get into some of the other clubs because of his ethnicity, his racial ethnicity. And so they,
and what was his racial ethnicity?
Jewish.
Right. So just for people to understand,
because
when sharing history, I'm stopping you on that for a moment, because people don't really understand that it's not just a black and white thing about racism and just marginalizing people. Actually, in this country, Jewish people have been marginalized in very significant ways since the beginning.
Absolutely. He was Jewish
in this country.
Yeah, these clubs were all waspish, white Anglo-Saxon Protestant, upper crust, and they wouldn't accept him. Meanwhile, his family is one of the wealthiest families in the country, in the world. So he said, okay, no problem. You don't want me to join your club? I'll start my own. So he started my club back in the 1800s. And these clubs, have been around since then. There were several of them when I was at Harvard. And as you said earlier, it's absolutely true. I didn't know this going in, by the way. I wasn't a rich kid. I didn't have a lineage. I had no pedigree, and which is part of the premise of The Ancient Nine, my book, is here was this poor black kid from a working class family who was invited to join this extremely exclusive and old club, secret society, and I had no connections to it, zero. And to this day, I don't know why they decided, we call it punch, why they decided to punch me for the club. I don't know why, but I thought when I was going through it as an undergrad, even though I was younger, it was such an out-of-body experience sometimes. I said to myself, even back then, one day I want to tell this story because the rest of the world that is like me and average and comes from regular places, they don't even know this kind of rarefied air, if you want to call it, exists.
Right.
So it started in my head back then of writing this story. And I actually started writing how I felt. I wrote situations that occurred to me when I was in these luxurious mansions and being taken to these dinners with partners at law firms. I mean, honestly, this stuff, exists.
You had not been exposed to any of that prior.
Are you kidding? I got invited to a cocktail party. What's a cocktail party? I had no idea what a cocktail party was. My family didn't go to cocktail parties. I never heard of a cocktail party. So anyway, I learned while I was in, school and even afterward that you're correct. These men are senators, presidents, CEOs, deans. Globally. The Aga Khan, the famous Aga Khan was a member of my club. Famous actors. Matt Damon came in behind me. Jack Lemmon was a member. I mean, all industries, all levels. And so The Ancient Nine is a novel about my experience entering and then navigating this ultra exclusive world.
Well, so George is justified in saying, I'm like, dude, come on. So you've got it in your book, so there's got to be some truth. Let me also let folks know, Dr. Ian Smith you have an incredible pedigree just in terms of your education. You graduated from Harvard, from Columbia University, the University of Chicago, Pritzker School of Medicine. This is quite a pedigree. And you just described, you grew up in a working class family. It took some vision, first of all, for you to even apply to starting with Harvard, to apply to what is arguably the most elite college in the United States, if not the world. Where did that vision come from, and that drive to go to these, highest echelon schools?
That's easy. My single mom. My mother was the visionary. She was the architect. She was the father. She was everything. My mother pushed us, supported us, fed us, everything, funded us. And she worked 3 jobs to do it. So my mother, and I'm going to be very clear here, yes, I had a drive to achieve, but had it not been for my mother to show me the way And by the way, my mother had not been to these places. She had not been to a 4-year school. Didn't have any money, but she had the vision to say, this is a path out and up. And so, I was from a young age, I was understanding that education was critical, that staying out of trouble downtown, as they call it, which means don't get in trouble with the police, that was important. Staying away from no smokes, no drugs, no alcohol, no drink. So these are basic things that I learned as a toddler that my grandfather from the South and my mother instilled in me constantly. And when you emulate people, like I emulated my mother, I emulated my grandfather. When you emulate people, if they say to you X, you say, okay. And so they said, don't drink. I didn't drink. Don't smoke. Didn't smoke. So I blindly followed these two visionaries, and it worked out pretty well.
Where did you grow up?
So I grew up in a small town in Connecticut, kind of a lower middle class, blue collar / kind of town. It was reasonably diverse. As a kid, I had friends. When I look back at it, because I often think about how I grew up, I had Black friends, Indian friends, Asian friends. I had everybody, Jewish friends. It was really a beautiful melting pot of people. And we didn't see, for the most part, our differences like that. We're kids. Like, Prit Patel and Enrico Ferrante and TJ Modulewski and Chris Target, we were just friends.
Right.
One guy was Polish, Chris was a classic WASP, Prit was Indian, Enrico was Italian down the street. We just didn't see that. So I grew up in a really supportive small town where people outside of your family supported you too, not just your family, but people outside your family admired you and wanted the best for you and helped you out. We helped each other out, white and Black, by the way. This is a great thing, Harriet. I had a white family by the name of the DeFrancos, the Italian family. And Mr. DeFranco took me under his wings. And he treated me like a son. I mean, like an absolute son. And he owned a car dealership. I've never really told this story publicly before, but he owned a car dealership. And he would say, come to the house, I have a car for you to drive this week. And every other week, I had a different car to drive from Mr. DeFranco. No relationship, little short Italian dude. He just loved me and my brother. And so, I hope that the world and the country particularly can get back to the idea that we're all human beings and that we only have a limited time. Mr. DeFranco's gone. We only have a limited time on Earth. And what better legacy can you leave than to be generous with other people and to treat people kindly? I just think that we need to get back to that.
I agree. And also, as you describe the people in your neighborhood, what I particularly like about it is nothing was homogenous. You mentioned, people's different ethnic backgrounds and who they were. One of the challenges of racism, which if you study history, is a social construct, is not really real. But one of the things about it is, especially in America, it's like black and white. But black doesn't exactly mean anything, and white doesn't exactly mean anything. And the white part, I think, is important to take a look at. When people started calling themselves white, they lost Polish and Italian and Irish and, whatever, and British and whatever those backgrounds were, and sort of homogenized into one, in a sense that was supposed to make them more powerful because it was big, but it took away the uniqueness
Irish.
of their cultural experiences. And so I love you describing how you grew up, because each of those identities meant something.
Not only did it mean something, but we had cultural differences, and it was interesting to learn and experience the cultural differences. Mr. DeFranco would kiss me. I mean, back then, men didn't kiss boys and men. Mr. DeFranco kissed me like I was his son, like Italians like to kiss each other. It was absolutely standard, Enrico Ferrante, and TJ's was Polish, and the way his dad and it was a really wonderful way to grow up. I didn't have a lot of money. I always say we were not wealthy in monetary or materialistic goods, but we were wealthy in culture and love and support. And I think that's critical.
That's beautiful. Hey guys, this is Dreamleapers with Harriette Cole, and we are talking right now with Dr. Ian K. Smith. And while we put the K in there now, it says the author, he put that K in there, kind of differentiating himself in that regard. He has written 26 books. Hey guys, that is just kind of unbelievable and great. And for all of you who want to write a book, you can do it. Dr. Ian K. Smith has written 26, and the current novel is Eagle Rock. So I want to talk to you about just the writing process for you, because there are, as I said, so many people who say that they want to write. They want to write a book. It's in their heart, but they don't really know what to do. And in this case, as you said, you created this character, Ashe Cayne, who now is part of a number of books, including Eagle Rock. How did you develop this character, and what is your writing process to really get into his head?
So if you are creative, and I believe all of us have the ability to be creative, if you are a creative, you have to be willing to take your mind into places that are uncomfortable, that are different, and be unafraid to make things. And so I always wanted a character that I had never seen in books, and I read a lot of books and read a lot of books, that I'd never seen in the movie screen or TV screen. And I wanted this character to exist. And I kept saying, well, why has no one created this character? So I said, you know what? I'll create it. So I created Ashe Cayne, who is a African-American former detective with Chicago Police Department, who leaves the force because he will not participate in a departmental cover-up of a unjustified killing. So he leaves. He gets a nice settlement from the city, and he becomes a private investigator, private detective, and he hangs up his own shingle. He's financially independent now, so he's not hurting for money. And so he takes on cases in and around the city, only cases that interest him. And that's the thing about him. He will not just take a case for money. It's got to be something about the case that draws him to it, that's magnetic for him. And that's what he did. The reason why I love Ashe Cayne and the way I've written him and the way I like the way I've written him is because he is fearless. He is tough. He is extremely intellectual. He has great intellectual flexibility. 1 minute he'll quote Shakespeare. The next minute he'll quote Kendrick Lamar or Biggie Smalls. He's comfortable in the affluent North Shore of Chicago, as well as the hard scrub streets of the South Side or the West Side of Chicago. He is authentically who he is, no matter where he is or what situation he's in. And he's also very sarcastic. So he's just the kind of character. I always say, I am a selfish writer. I write like I like to read. So this is the kind of character I would love to read about. And the style is my style. Fast-paced right from the first page, lots of twists and turns, trying to keep you guessing to the end. So I would like to end this response by saying to people, you cannot be afraid to create or you can't think that your creation is not worthy or that other people are not going to like it. You have to create for yourself first, right? You have to like it. And then if others like it, great. But don't rely on others to be your validation as to whether or not you try something.
I love that. Something you said earlier that I think is really important too, about creating opportunity for yourself, because you had to push your publisher, which is completely understandable. Publishing is a business. You've done very well in the health space, but that absolutely does not mean that you would be a good novelist. But success in one area at least can give you leverage. And I think for folks listening, I mean, what I took away from that is, if you are excellent at something, then you have at least the opportunity to say, I want to try something else. Give me a chance. And you don't have to give me a lot of money for it. Maybe sometimes you don't even get money for it when you get your foot in the door. But if you feel passionate about something and you have proven your excellence in another area, then there's a chance for a pivot. Can you speak a little bit more to that?
Absolutely. The major reason why it's important to establish habits, characteristics, and attributes of excellence is because a lot of those skills are transferable. Okay. So yes, writing about health is very different than writing about a detective. However, if you master the basic skill set and you become excellent at that, you have a much higher chance of learning something in a new genre or a new style and working at it and achieving excellence. And so I think that what people have to understand is that just because you're left doesn't mean you can't go middle and then go right if you have the foundation. And I think a lot of people, Harriette, are not building that solid foundation of how to become excellent in something, whatever it is, whether it's trading stocks, whether it's sociology, teaching, it doesn't matter. When you develop these skills, these life skills such as creating good habits, being consistent, holding yourself to high standards, being tenacious, working extremely hard. These are skills that are transferable no matter what you do, whether it's trying to write a screenplay or it's trying to plant, shrubs in your yard. If you have this curiosity to understand how things, people would say to me, Ian, you ask so many questions. Yes. I'll talk to my painter. I want to understand, why did you start doing it that way? Just explain it to me. I love to understand things, always have. And I think that when people have that intellectual curiosity, which is one of those important things to build excellence, I think that breeds all the good things that come, and then you can move over into something else.
I think that is so important. I want to talk about health because it's so important to you, and you've been really generous in writing about it and talking to people through the means that we find popular now, through television, through social media. I mean, you have to reach people where they are, right?
Yeah.
Today, there has been this incredible wave of using weight loss drugs like Ozempic and the others. And to be fair, that wasn't even a weight loss drug at first. That was a diabetes drug. And I'm not lamenting people who have done whatever they've done, but I do have some concerns about folks who have taken this medication, shrunk down really fast to whatever size, and now we're seeing that there's some negative side effects to your system, to your colon. There are a lot of things that we're discovering that are negative side effects. Can you address just those drugs for a moment, and then we'll move on to some other stuff?
Okay. You talk about me being generous in writing this stuff. Let me just say this first, and I'll get to the meat of this question. I keep saying to myself, I'm going to retire from writing health. I've been writing it for a long time, and that there are plenty of other younger voices and smarter voices that can do it better than I can. I keep saying that, and that someone's just going to take over. And every time I come close to saying this is it, something happens. So I'm going to give you what just happened last night, which is different than your question, but I'm going to segue into your question. So a friend of mine from college, a classmate, she has been asking me for years to write a book about menopause, to write an eating plan for menopausal women. Wow. And I have constantly denied that request because I felt like I'm not a woman. And would women really listen to me talking about what they need to eat for menopause? So I really felt like I didn't have that experience to give as rich and deep of a voice as I could in my other work. And she kept saying, that's not true. People respect you. You're still a doctor. You can talk about it. So I decided to bite the bullet. I'm in between books. I'm ahead a couple of years. I decided to write this diet plan for menopausal and perimenopausal women. And so yesterday I posted for 50 people who would like to try the plan early. Okay, because I'd like to get some feedback on this plan before I publish it. When I woke up the next morning, there were 1,200 emails in my box of people saying, I need this plan. I want this plan.
Wow.
And so now here I am on a whole nother journey that I thought I was almost done with this. But when I get that kind of response, there's something in my being that says, I have to tackle this problem. I have to put this out there to help people. This is just kind of how I'm built. My wife says, you can't do all this stuff. I just can't stop myself. But when I look at the Ozempic epidemic, the GLP-1 agonists, as they're called, of which Ozempic is just one of many, by the way.
Right.
When I look at this epidemic of what were first, as you're absolutely correct, they were diabetes, type 2 diabetes medications that it was discovered by accident, basically, that people were also losing a lot of the weight.
Right.
And they looked at the science of how these medications worked, and they understood why people were losing weight. One, it suppresses hunger. People are less hungry on these drugs. Two, it slows what's called the gastric emptying time, which means the amount of time the food leaves, transitions from your stomach into your small intestines. It slowed that time so that your food stayed in your stomach longer, and therefore you had feelings of satiety, of fullness longer. And then the last thing they typically do is they chemically interact with the brain's satiety center. That's the center of your brain that says, hey, I'm full or I'm not full. They interact with that to make you feel full so you're not eating. All that to say, Harriette, that these drugs are doing nothing but putting you on low-calorie eating. You're just eating less.
Right.
The drugs aren't burning fat. You know, people think it's melting your fat. The drugs don't do that. The drugs, if you look at a person's log who's taking these medications and they logged how many calories they were eating per day, they are eating a fraction of what they used to eat because these drugs are making them think that they are full, and it's suppressing their appetite and not making them feel hungry. So think about it. How long have we been talking about eating less? Right? Eat less. Duh, that's what it is. So there's no, as a person who's been doing this for so long and others, there's no magic bullet to these medications. That's what it's doing. So my answer is this. Let me help you eat a low-calorie plan and get the same kind of effect, anti-inflammatory, reduce your insulin spikes, suppress your hunger. Let's do that naturally through food without the cost. Some of these medications up to $1,000 per month if you don't have discounts or insurance. Some are cheaper now. And also without all the side effects. No one talks about the side effects of these drugs.
Yeah.
Diarrhea, gallstones, pain, joint pain, you name it. Vomiting, nausea.
Is that in part because the food is staying in the body too long?
No, it's just that medications in general have side effects.
Okay.
And no one likes to read the fine print. Every medication has a side effect. Okay.
And when we see those commercials and they, somebody with a really low voice speeds through this long list of things. Oh, this could kill you in 10 different ways, but it's really good for you.
I mean, they say that's the funniest thing when I'm lying in bed watching it and they go, and you can't understand what they're saying, but by law, they have to put those, and people aren't paying attention. So anyway, these now they're considered to be weight loss drugs because now some of these are been approved not for diabetes, but actually for weight loss. Mm-hmm. These are not the answer. Do they work? Yes. But when you stop taking them, guess what? People gain the weight back and then some, because you still have to modify your lifestyle behaviors, how you eat and how you move. So I've been, and others in the field have been doing this for a long time, we've been completely verklempt about the attention and all the commotion and the celebrity endorsements. I won't mention one of the big names who's done it recently, of these drugs. And guys, it's not the answer. I'm telling you, it's not the answer.
Well, I appreciate you being so forthcoming about it because, I'll say, for example, there's a woman who cares for my mother, very overweight, and she was put on, I think, Ozempic because of diabetes and all the extra weight. And she was telling me, I have to force myself to eat. I completely have lost any interest in food. She said, I realized that I went a whole day and didn't eat anything. And that she was told if she did that, she could end up in a diabetic coma, not even realizing that she was doing this to herself. So the side effects are very real. And, I just worry. And I worry when there's so many celebrities because we live in a celebrity obsessed culture. And I worry when we see that and then think, well, why am I not losing weight? Why can't I do, whatever that thing is? So I appreciate your being forthcoming about it. And hopefully people are truly listening. Let me remind folks, this is Dreamleapers with Harriette Cole. We are having a far-ranging conversation with Dr. Ian K. Smith. he's here in particular. Well, what started this is this novel that he's written, Eagle Rock. It is an part of the Ashe Cayne series. I can't wait to hear about whether this is going to become a film series. And you know, we're talking about creativity as well as taking care of yourself. And so, Ian, you have written a ton of books, talked to thousands, if not millions of people about how to care for yourself. We are at the end of a year. I know that usually many people in January say, this is what I'm going to do. These are my commitments to myself. And very often we fall short of our commitments. Very often they are fitness and health commitments that people, you know, put work first, put family first, put whatever else first. What can you say to people for this time in our lives? We have a couple of months left in the year before we transition into next. What can we do today that we actually might do, you know, to make ourselves healthier, to take better care of ourselves?
Well, let me just say that this is my favorite time of the year. I call it the holiday corner. It starts on Halloween, and I call it the corner of the year. It's Halloween, Thanksgiving, Christmas, and New Year's. My favorite time of the year. Always my favorite since I was a kid, mostly because this was the time the family got together. I got to see all my cousins and family. So I love this time of the year. By the same token, it's also for me, as a person who is a health advocate, one of the most frustrating times of the year. And I'll tell you why. Everyone at this time of the year starts focusing on what I can do to improve my health, improve my wellness, lose weight, whatever it is, get better. I love that. That's great. It's sad and a struggle to me because this is the mindset I want you to have all year. I want you to have this mindset in May and in August and September, all year. I want you to have this mindset. The danger of having this mindset is that it only happens at the end of the year. And then it lasts for 2 or 3 months, and then it's back to things as normal. And so a lot of what I've been doing the last few years is trying to teach people how to have this push all year long, how to stay strong in May, in June, and July when the weather's great and you're vacationing. Still remember that you're still living and that you're still trying to be healthy, and that this is not a system where you can save everything up for the last 2 months of the year and the first 2 months of the. That's not how it works. And so I start people early. So for example, my new book in January is called Eat Your Age. Okay.
Yes. And I am so curious about that. So keep going, keep going.
So the idea behind that book is for every decade of your life, your body's needs change. Your body changes physically and physiologically. And because your needs change, what you needed in your 30s and 40s may not be what you need in 50s, 60s plus. And so I break down each decade. What are your top 10 nutrients that you need for this decade? What are the best exercises for your decade of life? Things you were doing in your 30s and 40s may not be good to do in your 60s. What are the important medical tests for your decade? You need these tests. What numbers should you know in these decades? And then what does a 30-day customized meal plan look like for you? If you're in your 50s, it looks like this, and your 40s like this, because it incorporates different nutrients that you need for that particular decade. I love this book. I think this book is going to help a lot of people. It's going to break things down, which is my skill set, into very digestible, simple terms. But the first thing I tell people what they need to do is simple. I'll give you 5 things you can do today. Number 1, dramatically reduce your consumption of red meat. I'm going to start right there because I love red meat. I've always loved red meat, and I did it myself. And
Dramatically reduce. Dramatically reduce. Okay.
Dramatically. Some people may want to eliminate it. That's fine. But at least dramatic. What do I mean by dramatic? I was eating red meat at least 3 to 4 times a week, easily. I'm now eating it once, maybe every 3 or 4 months. Okay. That's dramatic reduction. Okay.
That is.
And I don't miss it, by the way. When I do get a chance to have it, it's great, but I don't go to a restaurant and say, oh boy, I wish I had that ribeye. And I love ribeyes. No,
Okay.
I'm very happy with my salmon. I'm very happy with my sushi and my vegetables. So that's number one. Dramatically reduce consumption of red meat. Number two, establish an a movement. Let's just say that exercise gives people highs when I use that word. Establish a movement regimen. I just talked to my mother yesterday, and she was saying she doesn't know why she can't get things to work better, but she works out for 2 days and she stops for a week. Well, the little progress she was making in 2 days, if you don't keep it going, it goes away. So you have to establish a regular regimen of movement. The body needs to move, whether it's working out, running, swimming, I don't care what it is, cleaning, gardening is great, by the way. I've been doing a lot of gardening lately. Gardening, find something, and you have to do it 4 days a week for at least 30 minutes. Okay, let's start there. Obviously, you can do more, but let's start there. Number 3, dramatically reduce your consumption of fried foods. Fried foods, okay? Listen, I like French fries as much as anybody else, okay? And if I could eat them twice a day, I would. But fried foods just simply, they taste wonderfully, by the way. Fried fat is delicious. But at the end of the day, it is completely piling on to bad health effects. So reduce your consumption of fried foods, no more than 2 or 3 servings a week. That's the compromise. Number 4, you have to drink more water, okay? Swap out sodas and all these things. Waters and teas are wonderful. Things that don't fill you up with all these synthetic, artificial sweeteners and ingredients. More. I don't like water, by the way. I do not like the taste of water. I'm public about that. For me, I have to twist some lemon in my water. I need some kind of kick in my water. So if you're that kind of person, infuse it with fruit. That's what I do. I take a big jug, slice up some fruit or vegetables, put it in there, and then I have some kind of flavor. But flavorless water to me does
And
not
how
work.
much water do you recommend for people to drink?
Between 6 to 10 cups a day. It depends on your activity level. We always said 8 is a magic number. That's not necessarily the magic number. The amount of water you're supposed to drink is the amount that you need to replace what you've lost during the day. So that's the number, really. So if you're someone who's heavily inactive, you probably are not going to lose a lot of water over the course of the day, but between 6 to 10 for the average person. The last thing, number 5, that you can do starting today is 30 minutes a day, every single day. Do something for you, exclusively you, that makes you feel good, that is not dependent on others wanting to do it. 30, it could be dancing, singing, riding a bike, art, I don't garden, whatever it is, you have to make an appointment. And by the way, this is probably the hardest thing I'm saying right now.
I was about to say, yep.
Right? Because people understand how good of a concept it is, but then they say, I'm too busy. I'm so busy. I'm so busy. Just start with, I'd like you to do an hour, by the way. You have a lot of hours in a day, but just start with 30 minutes of it's just for you and what you want to do. So those are the 5 things I think people can do today and start changing their life.
And by the way, I want to ask about some things that people might be doing now that perhaps aren't the best, and get your opinion. So binge watching television, playing video games, playing whatever on your phone, searching through social media. These are things people may say, well, this is how I spend my downtime. What do you have to say to that?
I say that almost everything in moderation, and that doing too much, I love this, doing too much of anything is not good, because that's what too much means, right? That's the definition of too much. So even too much of a good thing is too much. So let me talk to the binging, if I can, for a second.
Yeah, please.
I love streaming. I mean, I rarely watch linear TV anymore because I like to be able to watch what I want to watch when I want to watch it without commercials. I love streaming and I like watching shows, but I have a routine, right? I spend all day being quote unquote productive, doing things that I think are productive during the course of the day. I don't watch TV. I don't stream things. I'm not in social media a lot during the day. I do it for work purposes, but in general, I'm not, oh, here I am, eating something, check me out. That's not my thing. But I will say this, at night, I reserve that time when I get home after a very long day. And I say, okay, I'm going to treat myself and we're going to watch something tonight. Okay, we're gonna watch a show that we like. I'm into all these love shows and Love Is Blind and Married at First Sight. That's one of my,
You like those? Okay.
that's one of my
Guilty
indulgence.
pleasures.
Yeah, guilty pleasure, right? But anyway, whatever it is for you. By the way, I also like rehab shows, house rehab shows. But you don't sit there and watch it for 5 hours, for 4 hours, for 3 hours. You watch 1 or 2 episodes and that's it. And then, so I am a watcher of like anybody else, but I moderate it, right? I don't overdo it. Some people will spend hours on end doing it, and I just think that that's not very productive.
I think that's a fair point. During the pandemic, I interviewed a woman who many of us know, at least her work, Norma Kamali, the fashion designer, and she has been an advocate for health for her entire career. And you can tell. I mean, she's 70 something years old and she probably looks like she's 50.
Mm-hmm.
One of the things that she said to this group that I was interacting with was, one of the best things you can do for yourself now, especially if you're feeling a little bit down, is do not drink alcohol. And I want you to know, Dr. Ian, that people started writing in the chat, what? You're taking away my alcohol too? I mean, there were people like in a panic. And she explained, look, you can do whatever you want to do, but I have learned that this is what is good for my body and my health and my longevity. And you mentioned in the beginning your having been taught by your mother and your grandfather not to drink alcohol. As you know, millions of people drink alcohol. There is the belief, have none. And then, what is the in between? What advice can you give to people who are not going to say, I'm never going to drink another glass of wine or whatever it might be, just to support them so that they can make as healthy of choices as they can?
Sure. I'm not against alcohol, by the way. It's just my personal preference. I buy people drinks. I go to bars. Like, I just don't drink. I'm a complete teetotaler. I've never had a drink in my life. And I've actually heard of some other people who are actually celebrities who are teetotalers too. I think Patrick Dempsey, Mr. McDreamy from Grey's Anatomy, is one of them.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Anyway, listen, drinking alcohol in moderation is not going to have negative health implications. It's the excess, like almost anything in life. The typical recommendation, and this is not a sexist thing, the typical recommendation is that women can have 1 drink a day and men can have 2 drinks. It's not based on gender. It's based on weight and metabolism. That's how they came up with that. So, men, just to put it simply, can burn through, metabolize alcohol faster than women because of size. The average size of a man versus the average size of a woman. So that is typically what the recommendation, quote unquote, healthy recommendation of alcohol consumption. Obviously that varies case to case, but it's just a general guideline. What people have to understand is that drinking a whole bottle of wine exceeds the healthy implications of drinking a glass of red wine, right? I mean,
Right.
like I said before, too much of a good thing is still too much. So I think that people just have to exhibit some type of control, do it in moderation. How you drink your alcohol also matters. Drinking over a period of time is a much better thing for your body to be able to handle it versus chugging it, as we used to say in college. But I think that, to what Kamali was saying, and I agree with her, everyone has to find what works for them, right? And I've said this my entire career. My job is to give you guidance. Your job is to take that guidance and make it work for you. Because I don't know you. I can't write for every single person because we are idiosyncratic, unique individuals. But I can give you the basic guidelines. And Eat Your Age, I'm giving you guidelines for your decade. But you may have rheumatoid arthritis, and which means that you may need to do something a little different. I can't know that. And I can't write for every, caveat there is. And so I just want people to realize that when you are doing things, I like pizza, but do I sit down and eat 6 slices of pizza? No. I like chocolate. No, this is true. People are like, well, what do you eat? I eat almost everything. I eat chocolate cake. I love cake, but I don't sit there and eat like a big, huge slice of chocolate cake. It's moderation, Harriette. And because I don't want to take the fun out of food or drink either, by the way.
Yeah. You know, one more thing regarding food, because when you take out the meat and you mention, so then we have fish, we have chicken, we have things like that. In many neighborhoods, fresh fish is not that easy to come by, and it can be more expensive. You know, that sometimes to eat healthy could mean that it costs a little bit more, but even the access. What fish do you recommend? I know you mentioned salmon. That's like one. What fish do you recommend? And for folks who may not have as much money, how can they still eat healthy and, you know, follow your recommendations?
I think if I had to recommend 3 fish, salmon's number one for me. I just like the flavor profile. I like the versatility of it. I like what you can do with it when you cook it. There's so much you can do with it. And it's chock full of omega-3s. But I would say tuna is a great fish. Tuna is very inexpensive, very healthy. You can do a lot with it. I love old-fashioned tuna fish sandwiches that I still make, that my aunt taught me when I was 6 and 7. I still make them. Made one the other day.
Love that.
Lots of protein in it. Just make sure you are getting it packed in water. Make sure that it's wild caught tuna. And there are lots of brands at regular grocery stores that have canned tuna that is wild caught in water. You can get that very inexpensively, because I do that. And then the last one I would say would probably be sea bass. I think sea bass is a very, very good fish. But I'm always asked this question you just asked, and this is my answer typically. People have to make compromises, sacrifices, and priorities. Okay? Why skimp on your health? Why skimp on the fuel that you put into your body? I'd rather have a 2-year-old cell phone that may not have the latest widget than go to the store and buy food that's full of processed ingredients because it's more affordable. I think people have to decide where they're going to spend their money. I'm a big traveler. My family spends a lot of money on traveling because we like to see the world. Exploring the world is our thing. There are other things we don't spend a lot of money on that other people do. We don't go to a lot of ballparks, for example. We don't do a lot of things. It's all up to you. But the one thing I think that should be universal for all of us is that food is medicine, and that is your health. And if you don't have your health, guess what? You don't have life, or you don't have quality of life. So I've tried. I can't imagine why I wouldn't put my health and my life as the priority. And if I'm going to splurge somewhere, that's where I would splurge.
Well, thank you for sharing that. Dr. Ian K. Smith, author of Eagle Rock. This is the latest in the Ashe Cayne series. And as I see behind you, Eat Your Age. Eat Your Age. I love that. I cannot wait to read it. Can we pre-order that book now?
Yes, it's available for pre-order now. In fact, if you pre-order a copy of Eat Your Age, or you order a copy of Eagle Rock, and if you send me an email and say, hey, Dr. Ian, I got Eat Your Age or I got Eagle Rock, you can do my boot camp starting in January, a virtual boot camp that's going to be free for you. Just send me an email to eatyourage@gmail.com. Eatyourage@gmail.com and say, hey, Dr. Ian, I picked up either Eat Your Age or I picked up Eagle Rock. Can I join it? And the answer would be absolutely.
And when does it begin? Just so people know.
After the 1st of January, probably about the 6th of January.
And is it once a week or every day, or you don't know yet?
It's going to be a 6-week boot camp, and there will be at least one Zoom virtual session that everyone can attend per week. And if you can't attend the session, I record it and we'll post it in our group.
Perfect. Eatyourage@gmail.com.
Yes.
Thank
and Instagram, my Instagram is @Dr. Ian Smith. Spell the doctor out, IAN Smith. I post a lot of free stuff on that too.
Yeah, it's really, really inspiring. Thank you so much. And congratulations for all that you do. And again, thank you for being so generous. It truly is helpful. Thank you.
Harriette, I appreciate you. And I love what you've done with your career. And thanks for being a friend.
Thank you so much. And thank all of you for tuning in. I told you this was going to be a good one. I hope you are inspired to really leap into your dreams of being your best self health-wise, and have fun by reading some fiction. Until next time, have a great day and make it count.